Welcome back to Morning Footy, everyone. So Mexico's record in competitive games at the Azteca since 1957 is pretty impressive. They've only had 2 losses. So should England beat Mexico on Sunday, they would be the first ever team to do so at a World Cup. So that game is happening at 8 p.m. Eastern, despite reports of the kickoff time changing to earlier in the day. The game will stay at its original time, but things that will not be different, despite all of these things that's happening, Jimmy, is the altitude, the fans, the Estadio Azteca, crazy place to play. You've played there before.
I have played in Mexico City, some big games, not with the U.S. I was on a bench for one of those games, but for some club games, some Concacaf Champions Cup games, and it is ridiculous. The first 20 minutes, you can't breathe. You're wondering what you're doing with your life. Where am I supposed to go? How am I supposed to... And everybody on your team's feeling the same way. That's where I think actually Mexico can jump in and take advantage of that, knowing this is where we hurt people. But ultimately, if England can manage that first 20-ish minutes and get to that first hydration break, still at 0-0, and they're going to want to slow it down, England. So ultimately, Mexico is going to have to pick up the speed. We'll talk about those a little bit.
I'm not a world-class athlete like you were, but I remember going up the stairs in a hotel in Mexico City. I was done. It took me 10 minutes to recover after that.
In a hotel.
It is like the pollution levels tomorrow is like smoking 5 cigarettes a day. So whether they like it or not, these guys are all chain smoking for the next few days. That's what's going on right now in their lungs. It looks like even Declan Rice is sunburnt in this photo. Anthony Gordon's all red already. It is going to be a cauldron. It is going to be so tough. The air is heavy, Hannah. You can smell the smog. The altitude's a nightmare, and then you're facing this.
Yeah. So can you give me the context, please? Because I've seen this, and I'm obviously not educated enough. What is that mural? What is that they're standing outside of? Is it a religious aspect?
Jimmy, you take this one.
It's one of their famous statues. I'm not going to pretend to know exactly what it is. I'm sure I can get something in my ear at some point. But it's a really famous avenue within the city.
Yeah.
And so I'm not surprised that they set up there, and that is incredible. I mean, just having that shot alone, the drone shot, is just phenomenal. Really shows how much it means to the country. Phenomenal. So imagine that inside and outside of the stadium when England comes into town. I just think England are in trouble for a lot of different reasons, but the intangibles, just the altitude in particular, it's so hard to play in this that if you go down 1-0, like all the other teams that have played there have all gotten their asses slapped because they just weren't ready for what just happened. I know that probably wasn't the best description, but they just weren't prepared, or maybe they were and they still don't. Like Ecuador went in there and didn't look like Ecuador, even though they play at altitude.
And it's making me nervous, isn't it? English people here.
We're very edgy here on Morning Footy. Just to give you an idea, there's Quito in Ecuador, very high up. La Paz in Bolivia, very high up. La Paz and Bolivia have beaten Argentina at home. That's how much the altitude matters. But I think the Azteca, with just how grand and colossal it is, might be the greatest home advantage. You hear about the 12th man all the time, and yes, to a certain extent there is like a great fan, but there it's the environment and the fans. You have the best sounding fans, the best acoustics mixed with one of the harshest climates in terms of the smog, in terms of the altitude. So there's a bunch of things going already against England before they've even stepped out onto the pitch.
Yeah, so many factors. Altitude, fans, according to Jimmy, butts being kicked. Jaydee, what's your storyline to watch in this game?
Jimmy alluded to it. And, Jimmy's my centre-back partner on this, so he understands. The first 15 minutes is going to be super important. Please, just settle into the game. You hear my heart, because I'm actually wanting England to win. I want us to go as far as we can. But the first 15 minutes is going to be like nothing they've ever experienced. I look at all of those 3 players on the graphic, and I think about all of the players in this squad. They would have played in Champions Leagues, Cup finals, won Premier Leagues. Nothing is going to compare, and I defer to my peers when they say this. Nothing compares to the Azteca in the first 15 minutes. How you control your emotions, how you handle the occasion, and more importantly, how you silence the crowd will really probably determine a large part of this game.
Yeah, and I agree with that first 15 minutes, because right now England's having to answer questions about, hey, the last time you were there was the hand of God. You guys lost in '86. Oh, hey, by the way, you're playing at altitude. Everybody struggles in the altitude. Oh, hey, by the way, Mexico's won all 4 of their games and have 4 clean sheets. That's the stuff that they're having to answer to. So I think that lends itself to a psychological advantage because you're playing at Azteca and you're playing against a very good and inspired Mexico team, which leads me to my point, and the key for this game is who is willing to suffer the most, or who's going to do the best at suffering the most. My advantage goes to Mexico. England's just going to have to survive. And if they can survive and keep it at 0-0, then they can eventually thrive as they kind of settle into the game. Because at some point, and I have this from experience, you will work through smoking packs of cigarettes and you will work through the altitude, but that only kicks in around 25, 30 minutes. So they got to get to that hydration break. But I just feel like Mexico are just so primed to have a good result here. However, if England can score first, now you're making Mexico suffer, and I'm kind of curious to see how they bounce back from that, because their fans are very keen on booing you if it's not going the way that they want, and be right down your throat. So it can work against Mexico.
Okay.
But you have to score first.
There's hope there.
There's hope. Okay, Matteo, what's your storyline?
So sort of the same as Jaydee, where he said control the first 15 minutes, but mine was more broad, and that's the midfield just controlling the game. The way that Mexico are swarming, what they did to Ecuador was one of the greatest halves of football that I've seen. Maybe the greatest half of football I've seen from Mexico, but maybe the best halves of football I've seen in this entire World Cup. The way they press, the way that they're all over you. England cannot do that. They cannot chase ghosts. They cannot chase the ball. They need to be in control, whether that means Bellingham coming back, because I think one of the weaknesses of this English side, and it was very well documented, no Trent Alexander, no Foden, they don't have as much creativity. They have a lot of pace, but Bellingham coming back a little bit to help out the two number 6s, being in control of the game. That means Declan Rice and Bellingham will have to play at their best. They have delivered. Harry Kane has delivered, but they also need help. They need to control this game and control the tempo so they don't get tired after 20 minutes.
Really quick, it took them 30 minutes, England, to get a shot on goal against Congo, right? And it took magic from Harry Kane to even beat Congo. And now they're going into an even more difficult environment against a more difficult opponent, with all due respect to Congo, and yeah, they're going to have to get more than just Harry Kane magic. They're going to need it from the whole team, including the midfield.
Well, everyone, today we are live on YouTube, so we are able to read a lot of your comments that you are putting below in the chat. We've had one here. All this Azteca crowd altitude is not an excuse to lose this game. England 3.
Never played in altitude before.
I don't think the English team will not use this as an excuse. They've already said that. They know, and this is just the reality. Now, some fans back home might be using it as an excuse. You can't play every game at sea level. You can't play every game at 60 degrees. You go to some places where maybe they have snow. You go some places maybe you're in the Arctic, like Bodo Glimt in the Champions League. It's the World Cup. The world has different altitudes, different climates. It just so happens that Mexico, who is one of the hosts, plays their games very high up, above sea level. That's just the way it is.
Okay, should we take a look at the projected lineups then, who we think is going to be in the starting 11s? A lot of talk about the English right back, and he could potentially be facing Julian Quiñones, who's been having an amazing World Cup so far. How do you see that debate going?
Pray for them. That's the first thing I would say. I'd actually change this slightly. I know Jed Spencer's had this controversy around this World Cup and whether or not he should be starting and whatever else. I think he's given 25 for a reason. That's clearly a squad number. I'd actually look forward to seeing if Thomas Tuchel is going to be a little bit brave and maybe get a little bit more experience there. Ezri Konsa has actually played in the right-back position for both club and country. Can he play right back? Maybe you bring some experience in terms of John Stone, because I just need to see England manage this game. The management of the game is going to be super important beyond actually what happens on the pitch. But in the attacking third, love the fact that they've integrated Saka from the start. Finally, we can maybe see Bukayo Saka do something in this tournament in terms of announce himself. Marcus Rashford is inconsistent. Some elements are really good, some elements are really bad. And I need Jude Bellingham to pace himself. Please, do not burst all of your lungs in the first 30 minutes. I know you want to set the pace. I know you want to be sort of the counteract and the press from the beginning. But if you go too early, it's going to be hard to recover.
Yeah, and I'm just going to highlight on the Mexican side, Julian Quiñones. 4 goal involvement so far in this tournament has been so dynamic and such a menace, I should say, for any of the opposing teams. They're going to have to figure out, England, who's going to give that first contact. Because if Saka's going to drop back, how can he help with that pressure, not allowing him to get the ball in good spots? If Spence is there, whoever's going to be there, how quickly can you get out? You can't let him have a run of steam, right? You can't let him get his head up and start to run at you. That's going to be a problem. So that kind of Saka, Anderson, and Spence, how they solve that and how the center back also slides over. It's Konsa or Stones or whoever it may be. You just have to try to limit his influence as much as possible, because he is, as I like to say, confidence is a hell of a drug. And so he is as confident as any player in this tournament. And they got to slow him down and just make the game as difficult as possible.
Yeah, I think Lira, the defensive midfielder who's keeping Edson Alvarez, by the way, on the bench.
Incredible.
He's so important because he's going to be facing Jude Bellingham. Jude Bellingham's runs down the middle. Mora, the young kid. You hear so much about these teenagers. Oh, he's 17. He's the next big thing. A lot of the times it doesn't pan out. What I saw from Mora against Ecuador, especially that shot that he was like right around this area and he curls it and it's just about a millimeter wide. That told me everything I need to know about this kid. That at home, you're trying the audacious shots. This kid's full of confidence. You can see it right away when he touches the ball. You're like, oh, yeah, this kid's absolutely got it. So those two players in particular are going to be huge at unlocking and stopping England.
I just want to hear your point on Mora a little bit more. Do you think it's because he's so young, because he's 17, he hasn't got the level of injuries, he's still got a level of naivety, and I mean that respectfully, so he doesn't have the fear as of yet. Do you think that's why you're seeing him express himself so much?
How were you like at 17? I was outside of 7-Eleven smoking cigars. So
I was playing video games with my friends.
I definitely did not
wasn't playing in a World Cup. Here's one thing to note. When I look at this Mexican team, they seem set in their identity and how they want to play. Not too many changes. When I look at England, they got a right back issue, and also which wingers are going to start. We have Rashford and Saka, but maybe it's Gordon and Madueke or another combination of that. They still need to figure that out. I don't think Tuchel's figured it out.
It's a good point, though, at 17. Like, you probably should. He's maybe too naive, too immature. It looked like a mature player. It looked like also someone that has that fortitude that maybe I'll never understand.
Yeah, wonder if he's smoking cigarettes outside 7-Eleven. One comment, everyone, we've had on YouTube. Quiñones is Mexico's best player. England need to sit Anderson and start Mainu. Ooh. What do you think, Jaydee?
I don't think that's a bad shout. And you know why I don't think that's a bad shout? Because I love Elliot Anderson. Do I think he's a £130 million player? Probably not. But that's not for me to decide. That's for everybody else to make their opinion. But what Kobbie Mainoo will do, he will dictate the game. He will come in and almost give a little bit of more of a continental flair, slow everything down, know when to put your foot on it, and know when to assert in terms of pace into the game. I don't think it's a bad shout at all. And I'm surprised Kobbie hasn't played yet.
Can I ask you another tactical thing that I've heard being floated out there? Would you drop for Anderson, would you drop Jude a little bit deeper, put him with Declan Rice, and then put like an Eze or someone like that to have a little bit more creativity in the team?
Great shout again. And I've been kind of clamoring and pushing for this. I understand what Elliot Anderson brings, especially when he'll offer the ball. He presses really high, works in between the lines, knows and plays a really simple pass. I think because of Declan's emergence in the 8 position, we've kind of forgot that he was originally a 6 or a 4 and wanted to hold.
Yeah.
And for me now, I look at England as someone that is more scared of losing a game rather than going out to win it. The only problem I have with that is I don't know how disciplined Jude is to sit in there and say, I'm going to sit and I'm not going to move.
That would be my fear.
And that could lead to massive gaps in terms of especially.
But Real Madrid, he had to drop a little further back, right, in his second season, and all his goal tally, assists, everything went down.
Yeah. Really quick, boys, score predictions.
You asking me first?
Yeah, the English.
I've said 1-0 England, extra time. It's going to take everything to kind of get through this. The only reason as to why I believe they might go to extra time is because as Mexico are very solid defensively, I don't know how much threat they actually have going forward. So I'm hoping that the Azteca, everybody will calm down, will be on that full flung by then.
I think you're getting -110 on England. It looks like it's going to be even odds by the bookies when this game's kicked off. I think 1-1 going into extra time, incredibly tight. It's going to go to penalties, and then it'll be a lottery. Let's go with England.
Thanks, Buckets.
Yeah. No, I'm similar.
Watch out, I'm coming for you, Buckets.
Why are you throwing Buckets?
Sorry, it's just funny. You
I'm
just gave all the
similar
betting.
to Matteo here. I do think it's going to be tight. I had actually, and I'll raise my hand, I had England in my bracket when we did it before the knockout rounds. But now as I kind of live through this tournament a little bit more, I think the Mexico has the advantage. So I could see them winning in penalties as well.
As a former USMNT player, you're saying this?
Listen, I put my flag in the ground and said I'm a fan of all the hosts. The farther the hosts go, the better.
Tell us what you really think.